see. Okay. Send a notice out to everybody. All right, the notice went out. And then one final step. All right, we are live. Okay, all right. Let's just get everything copacetic. And then we'll have a little kirtan. Let's see, what are we going to chat today? Interesting. Okay, Goranga Balite Habi. Okay. Kashatri Adihade Wulite Nayanai Goranga Wulite Ave Kashatri Adihade Wulite Nayanai Harakabe Nitai Janera Corona Oive Sarabashana Mora Kabitu Choive Harakabe Nitai Janera Corona Oive Sarabashana Mora Kabitu Choive Vishai Gachati Akame Shudave Mana Kapiha Mahira Boshri Vendavanama Vishai Gachati Akame Shudave Mana Kapiha Mahira Boshri Vendavanama Oi bea coche, Kalihama Jabose, Yugala Verity, Uparaduna Pate, Oi bea coche, Kalihama Jabose, Yugala Verity. The Mahumorasha Ratana Kore Sada Narotamakas Rupa Raghunatha Pade Morahasha Ratana Kore Sada Narotamakas Norangava Nitayami Ulakashari Ati Ate Rite Nayane Mabinir Noranga Pomite Hape Ulakashari Ati Ate Rite Nayane Mabinir Chakrir Adi Ade Bonite Nayane Babe Goranga Ideame Pulaka Chakrir Adi Ade Bonite Nayane Babe near Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parabhikacharya also Tera Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabaya Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Machuranam Ki Jai Jagadha Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarni. Here's the translation. When will that opportune moment come to me when I shiver upon chanting the name of Lord Gauranga? When will I cry while chanting Hare Krishna? When will I receive the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda so that my desires for material enjoyment become insignificant? When will my mind be purified of material anxieties and desires so that I can understand Vrindavana? When shall I be very eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis so that I can understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna? The lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis are my only shelter. In constant separation from them, I remain. Narottamadas Thakur. Narottamadas Thakur. Ki Jai. Haribo. So today is a special day in the Vaishnav calendar. Looking at my Vaishnav calendar, it says it is Bhismastami. Now, Astami means the 8th day of the moon, and Bhismastami means the 8th day of the moon. That's in honor of Bhisma, grandfather Bhisma. And in India, there's festivals going on. Some people say it's the day Bhisma left this world and went to the spiritual world and became a Vasu again. And other people say it may have been his birthday. But anyway, it's an important festival day. It's there on our Vaishnav calendar. You see, this is our Vaishnav calendar. We have a very special calendar in Dugaloka. In Dugaloka, we have a calendar with our picture of the deities and all the dates calculated just for here in North Carolina. So that's Radhagolokananda. So different pictures of Radhagolokananda on each page. Pretty nice, isn't it? And that way, so many people come to the temple because they're attracted to Shri Shri Radhagolokananda. Okay, on that happy note, we will talk about Grandfather Bhisma today. So, Om Aganara. There's nothing to share. Sorry, it's just going to be, you're just going to be seeing me speaking. Let me just check the volume. Yeah, the volume's all right. Excuse me. Basically, you're just going to be seeing me speaking. Actually, let me set up a chat window so I can also see if anybody has any complaints. You know, if the volume is too low or something like that while we're speaking, then it's always good to have some little chat thing there. Okay, so Om Gana Timidandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, and here's the story of Grandfather Bhisma, whose day it is today. So, okay, let me just, let's see. Hold on a second. A little glitchy. Okay, glitchy. Let's see, what are we doing here? Oh, that's what. All right. Anyway. Hold on. Let me just fix this little glitchy thing. So. There we go. I think that fixes the glitchy thing. Because I definitely want to see the chat window. Hold on a second. Whoops. Okay. Anyway, we'll just have to tolerate if I can't see the chat window. Okay, here we go. Here's the story of Grandfather Bhisma. So, Grandfather Bhisma wasn't always a grandfather. Was before he became Bhisma, he was one of the Vasus. The Vasus are like, there's 8 Vasus in the heavenly planets, and they are in charge of a lot of the stuff in the heavenly planets. They're actually like Brahmanas. And so what happened is that these 8 did something really bad. What did they do really bad? They stole Vashishta Muni's cow. Now you may say, what's wrong with that? Well, first of all, it belongs to Vashishta Muni, and if you steal his Kamadhenu, you're definitely going to get cursed. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You're going to get cursed. So basically, they stole the cow, and the reason they stole the cow, this is a really interesting reason that they stole the cow, was that there's still a little problem here on with this thing. Okay, I think this will take care of it. Just finish this. Okay, and that will take care of it. Okay. So the reason they stole the cow, it's actually a very interesting reason, was that one of the Vasus, his name was Jao, had a wife, and his wife was friendly with someone on the Earth planet. And that person on the Earth planet was mortal like you and me and was going to live a very short life. Now that's a problem if you're going to live a very short life. What is the problem if you're going to live a very short life? You're going to die very soon. So this particular friend of Zhao's wife wanted to live longer, and so the only way she could live longer is if she drank the milk from the Kamadhenu, the desire cow of Vashishta. Okay, so all the Vasus decided to steal the cow of Vashishta. And once they did that, guess what happened? They got cursed. Well, how do they get cursed? To be born on Earth. They may think that's not such a big curse, but it's a really bad curse unless you're born during the Sankirtan movement, and then you can chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. So they were cursed like that. And they went to Vashishta and said, forgive us, forgive us. And he said, okay, I am not going to exactly forgive you, but I'm going to allow all, seven, not all, but 7 of you to give your long lifespan, which I curse you to have on the earth, to Zhao, who's the primary one responsible. But you'll have to be born, but there's actually going to be a very short life. But Zhao is going to have to live a very, very, very long life. And as I mentioned before, Zhao later became grandfather Bhisma. So they were very worried. Who is going to be our mother? We don't want just any old, grubby old lady to be our mother. We want someone, cool to be our mother. And so at the same time this was happening, there was a great king in the heavenly planets. He had gone to the heavenly planets because he was a great king. His name was Mahabhish. And he was attending the dancing ceremonies and that were done in Indra's place. So he was watching the girls ching 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 da 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 da. I want to hold your hand. Da, 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 da. I know that's American song, but anyway, no, that's actually a British song. So he was watching the girls, but then what happened is there was a breeze that blew Ganga Devi, who was also there. She wasn't one of the dancers. Blew her garment up, and he was able to see part of her body that he wasn't supposed to see, and Mahabhish kept staring at it, or her. And the other demigods, they just looked the other way. And Lord Brahma got really angry and he cursed Mahabhish. You got to go back to the Earth planet, buddy. And Ganga Devi, she actually liked the attention. And Brahma said, okay, you can go back and marry Ganga on the Earth planet. Not that Ganga didn't have to take birth on the Earth planet, but she had to marry Mahabhish. So Ganga, she's sort of happy about the whole thing because she's in love with Mahabhish, but anyway. And so Ganga leaves the assembly and she runs into these Vasus. And the Vasus, they're looking for a mother. They said to her, will you become our Mataji? I don't know if they use the word Mataji. Will you become our mother? Okay. And kill us immediately after we're born. And she said, okay, I will become your mother. Okay, so basically Shantanu goes down and takes birth on the Earth planet as the son of Pratipa. And one day he goes to the bank. He's like the king at this time. His father has passed away. He goes to the bank of the Ganges River. And while he's at the bank of the Ganges River, honoring the Ganges River, he sees this beautiful girl, who happens to be Ganga Devi, come out of the water. And he becomes enamored. That's interesting, the word enamored. It's enamored. Think about the word. Enamored. Like this, French or Latin, amor. Amor means love. And amored means in love. Or completely immersed in lust. Anyway, so he becomes attracted. And he thinks, I gotta marry this girl. I mean, phew. And he says to her, let's get married. Right on the moment. No question of astrology checking or anything like that. That's what lust does to you. You see someone and there is lust at first sight. So, and he doesn't actually remember this whole thing in the heavenly planets. Remember this. Even though he was Mahabish before, he doesn't remember. So she says, I will marry you only under one condition, that you will never disagree with me or anything I do. And he was thinking, how could such a sweet girl do anything that I would disagree with? This is love, this is lust. That you see someone as sweet. I mean, just like, for example, like a little child may look at a tiger and think, oh, it's nice and furry and cute. Let me just embrace it and hold it. And so the tiger takes one bite and the poor kid gets turned to tiger prasadam. Gets eaten by the tiger. So, anyway, they get married. He agrees. I will never disagree with you. And what happens is they keep having kids. And she keeps drowning each one right after the kid is born. It's like 7 years. They had 7 kids like that. And when it came to the 8th kid, after she gave birth to the 8th kid, she got ready to drown the 8th kid. But Shantanu forbade her. He said, how could you do this? You're very cruel. And she said, you've disobeyed me. You disagreed with me. I'm out of here. And so Shantanu is besides himself. He's crying. He's lost his wife. He's lost his kid and his kids who have been killed. He's crying like anything. Oh, feeling separation from Ganga Devi. So, anyway, so the kid went with the mother. And that kid's name was Devavrata, who later on became Bhisma. And this kid was instructed in philosophy by Brahaspatis, by Vashishta Muni, and also by Parshuram. Parshuram was his martial arts guru. So, anyway, his name was Devavrata. So then what happened is that after a while, he's dropped off on the Earth planet, and the way that Shantanu discovers him is that Bhisma has actually stopped the flow of the Ganges River with his arrows. And Shantanu discovers that's his son. Ganga Devi turns Bhisma or Devavrata over to his father, and the father's real happy. And he appoints him in a particular position. That position is that he's going to become the next king. I think it's called the Yuvaraj. Anyway, the next king. So, meantime, or after this happens, everybody's happy. Shantanu's happy. He has his kid. Doesn't have Ganga Devi, but he's feeling sort of all right. Little lonely. Doesn't have any love affair at this particular point. Meantime, he goes to the Ganges again. And then when he goes to the Ganges, he keeps having trouble when he goes to the Ganges. He sees this girl named Satyavati, who is the daughter of a fisherman. Actually, she's not the daughter of a fisherman. She's the daughter of King Vasu, who somehow or other got stuck in the stomach of a fish. There's a whole story about that. I'm not going to tell that story right now. Anyway, and so she's ostensibly the daughter of a fisherman. And she smells really good. She's known as Ganga Yojana. I mean, for 8 miles, her perfume, she didn't need to buy perfume. The reason she didn't need to buy perfume is she was blessed by Parashara Muni. When Parashara Muni previously had a kid with her, that kid's name was Vyasadeva. So anyway, let's see what happens now. So anyway, Shantanu falls in love with her. I guess the perfume was too much for him. And he wants to marry her. So he goes to her father, the fisherman, Matsya Raj, that means the kingfish. he goes to her father, says, I want to marry your daughter. And the father says, it's a good idea, but her son has to become the next king. But he's already promised, that is, Shantanu's already promised that to grandfather Bhisma, or not grandfather, to Devavrat. And so he's, I can't do that to my son. So, brokenhearted, he leaves. And then for the next few weeks, he's crying. Tears are coming from his eyes like torrents of rain. Oh, Satyavati. Oh, Satyavati. This is a real love story, actually. Or a love story. Oh, I can't live without her. And he stops eating. He gets really thin. And he's just thinking, oh, better to end this life if I can't be with Satyavati. You know, this, whew. Anyway, Nunam pramata kurte vikarma yadindriya pritiya pranoti. This is Lord Rishabhade's statement to his sons. That one becomes crazy when he takes his senses and sense gratification to be very important. So he's completely in love. Bhisma notices his father's depressed. No psychiatrist around, you know. Didn't have any, like, pills to give his father. You know, otherwise he would have sent his father and taken some serotonin pills or something like that to make his father happy. But he didn't. So, but his father doesn't tell him because his father doesn't want to bother the son. So finally Bhisma convinces his father's prime minister or assistant to tell him. And so he finds out, goes to the fisherman and says, I want your daughter to marry my father. And the fisherman says, her son has to become the next king. So he says, okay, no problem. I renounce my princeship. I renounce it. And the fisherman says, but there is a problem. You're going to have a kid, and your son is going to actually want to become a king too, because you're the oldest son of Shantanu. And so Bhisma, or Devavrata, says, I will not get married. And that's where he got the name Bhisma, which means terrible vow. Because for a Kshatriya, that's a horrible vow. Because a Kshatriya, I mean, his life is based upon love. Sorry, friends. His life is based on love and protection and heroism and passion. You know, a Kshatriya is not supposed to be in goodness. Shanti, shanti, shanti. He's not supposed to be like that. He has to be passionate. In order to be passionate, you need love. Or lust, whatever. You need someone encouraging you. Otherwise, actually, even Prabhupada said that romance, or the attraction between men and women, is the cause of economic development. Prabhupada wasn't talking so much about Kshatriya life at this particular juncture, but it's the cause of economic development. And in other words, that's why people go to the office, work so hard, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, because they're married. Or they have some love exchange, or they have some kids. Not or, and. So, that keeps everybody going. So that keeps the Kshatriya going, too. Because otherwise, a Kshatriya, what is he going to fight for if there's no family? So anyway. So he takes this vow, and his father, Bhisma, takes this vow, and Shantanu was pretty upset. He said, why did you do this? And Bhisma says, because I love you. And Shantanu becomes so pleased with his son for this love, he blesses him that you will not die unless you want to die. That's a pretty far out blessing. And Prabhupada said in one class, in those days the father's blessing was so powerful that he could bless like that. So, and Bhisma also vowed that I will see my father's image in whoever is the king or emperor. So in other words, he would obey blindly, he vowed. And Bhisma always stuck to his vows, such as not getting married and everything like that. Okay, so everybody was happy. So Shantanu marries his beloved Satyavati, and they have 2 kids. Shantanu has 2 kids who are half-brothers of Bhisma. And those 2 kids are named Mitra Virya and Chitrangada. So they're boys, of course. Chitrangada was killed by a Gandharva who had the same name. So there was only Vichitravirya left. And so Vichitravirya needed a wife. He wasn't that strong that he can go out and get a wife by himself. Because in those days, if you wanted to get a wife, if you were Kshatriya, you had to fight for her. Not fight with her. There's a difference. You had to fight for her. Fight her other suitors. And it was very romantic. And that's why the ladies nowadays, they have this red dot on their forehead because it indicates that their husband fought for them and they got the blood from the husband's enemies, the other suitors. They put it on the forehead. And it was very romantic. For a Kshatriya. Not for a Brahmin. For a Brahmin, it's Muchi. So therefore, Bhisma has to go out and get the girls for his half-brother. So he decides to go to Kashi. And the Kashi king has 3 daughters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. 3 beautiful girls. And so Bhisma kidnaps them all. He says, I'm taking them with me to marry my brother. And actually, in the meantime, so many people are making fun of Bhisma. They're thinking, he's supposed to be a brahmachari. What is he kidnapping girls for? But he's kidnapping them for his brother, not for himself. So, when he gets back to the kingdom of Hastinapur, Amba, the oldest girl, reveals that she actually was promised to this guy named Shalvaraj. And Bhisma says, all right, she can go back. Shalva refuses to take her. And Amba comes back completely frustrated and said, I didn't get the love of my life, so I'm going to marry you. And Bhisma says, no way. You're not going to marry me because I've taken a vow never to get married. Plus, I'm not, even if I was going to get married, I wouldn't marry someone who hated my guts. Because one of the reasons she wants to marry him is just torture him for the rest of his life. So he refuses. So Amba goes to Parashuram. And she has some relationship with, her uncle is the friend of Parashuram. So she's able to get in to see Parashuram, the warrior incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she tells Parashuram her plight, and Parashuram says, no worry, lady, I'm going to make sure Bhisma marries you. So he tells Bhisma to marry her, and Bhisma says, no, Guru Maharaj. Prabhupada said that's the one time you could refuse the order of your spiritual master. If he tells you to get married and you say no, okay, he was testing you. So Parshuram challenges Bhisma to a fight, 23 days. They're fighting back and forth. Sort of a draw, or Bhisma won really, but he was told not to fire his ultimate weapon at Parshuram. And so Amba is really upset. She said, I'm going to do penance to Lord Shiva to be reborn and the cause of the death of Bhisma. So later on, of course, we know she was born as the daughter of Drupada. The daughter of Drupada was named Shikandi. But the difference is, the interesting story is, that even though she was born as the daughter of Drupada, Drupada was told, what? That she, or the child, was a boy. And he was told that by Lord Shiva. So he has so great faith in Lord Shiva, even though there's this girl here, obviously a girl, obviously all the characteristics of a girl. Even though there's a girl here, not here, there. No girl here. No sannyasi. So even though there's a girl there, he believes that it's a boy. So Drupada arranges a marriage with another girl. And in those days, it really wasn't accepted like that, 2 girls having a marriage. Nowadays, it's probably more common than heterosexual marriages nowadays. So anyway, because things have changed. So he gets married. There's this marriage ceremony, and this girl that Shikandini gets married to discovers that she is a girl. And so she goes to her father, another king, and the father gets ready to attack Drupada's kingdom. Everyone's upset. She feels real guilty. Shikandini feels real guilty, goes to the forest to try to end her life, meets this yaksha named Stuvaraj or Stuva something, I forget. Stuvakarna. She meets this yaksha, and the yaksha agrees to transfer his masculinity and give her his masculinity and take her femininity until she gets out of trouble. So she becomes he at that particular point. But in the meantime, while she becomes he and tries to rectify the whole misunderstanding, which actually happens, then Kuvera, who is the head of the Yakshas, comes back and sees this Stunakarna has become a girl. He becomes so upset he curses him to remain a girl until Shikandini dies. So, therefore, Shikandi is a boy in the Battle of Kurukshetra, but a boy who had, let's say, changed his gender or changed her gender. So even you have like gender changing then too. This is not something new. Interesting, isn't it? So, Shikandi was actually used by Arjuna as a shield when he was fighting with grandfather Bhisma. So we're going to get to that story in a second. So, then let's fast forward to the Battle of Kurukshetra. All right, Battle of Kurukshetra. Of course, in the meantime, Bhisma really favored the Pandavas much more than he did the Kurus, but he couldn't say anything. Oh yeah, this is an important point. He couldn't say anything when the Kurus were doing bad things to the Pandavas, especially when the Kurus were attempting to disrobe Draupadi during the gambling match or after the gambling match. He just remained, maybe not silent, but even though he was capable of stopping this horrible atrocity of the attempt to disrobe Draupadi, even though he was capable of doing that, he just remained on his seat. He was upset, couldn't do anything because he stuck to his vows. Now, this is interesting. So, you may say, that's good he stuck to his vows. And I will say, it's not good he stuck to his vows. And even grandfather Bhisma realizes that when he's on the bed of arrows. What does he realize? He realizes that vows should be kept, but when keeping them results in irreligiosity, they should not be kept. Very interesting. He finally realizes that morality depends basically on the result, not on the action itself. He realizes that. And he actually gives an example when he realizes that lying on the bed of arrows. He says, once upon a time, there was a band of robbers, a band of robbers, and they were running away from, there was a household couple that was running away from a band of dacoits. Here's the real story. And they were just upset because the dacoits, for one reason or other, wanted to kill them. So this couple ran into the ashram of some Muni, and the Muni gave them shelter. And the Muni had taken a vow never to tell a lie, to always tell the truth. And so the dacoits arrived at the Muni's ashram, paid obeisances, because they were rather Vedic dacoits. They paid obeisances, and they said, where? I don't need my glasses. They said, where is this family? Have you seen the family? And the sage said, I cannot tell a lie. The family is in my ashram. And so the dacoits killed the family. So at that particular juncture, it wasn't the best thing or even religious thing to tell the truth. It was better to tell a lie. And you see instances of this in the Battle of Kurukshetra where Krishna asked Yudhisthira to tell a lie and say that Ashwatthama has died or has been killed. And Yudhisthira refused until Bhimsena killed the elephant named Ashwatthama, and then Yudhisthira said, Ashwatthama, the elephant, is dead. So, and in this way, Yudhisthira was disobeying the Lord, and he was also lying. Because when you actually give someone the wrong impression, even though speaking truthfully, you're lying. So he lied, and he disobeyed Krishna's instruction, and as a result, he touched the ground from that point forward. And so, sometimes lying is required, and saving someone's life is required. And even like Prabhupada said, for a Vaishya, when a Vaishya is doing business, he has to sometimes say, for you, there's no profit. You're my friend. I'm just giving you this at cost. Which is definitely, Prabhupada said, it's a simple lie. Okay, so, fast forward. Battle of Kurukshetra. Bhisma is the commander-in-chief in the beginning of the Kuru army. And even as the commander-in-chief, he doesn't fight seriously with Arjuna. He's thinking, I'm not going to kill Arjuna. I mean, he definitely has the ability. Of course, Krishna would stop it, but he definitely has the ability to kill Arjuna. So, Duryodhana confronts him with his apparent reluctance to kill Arjuna, and he taunts him. And Bhisma says, okay, with these 5 arrows I will kill the Pandavas tomorrow. And they have all my potency, so I vow these 5 arrows will kill the Pandavas. Or I will use these 5 arrows, and when I use them, they will kill the Pandavas. So Duryodhana, in order to avoid any sort of problem, keeps the arrows safe in his tent. He has a guard on them 24/7. And so Krishna knows about this, and he knows we got to get those arrows. So Krishna has Krishna and Arjuna go to Duryodhana's tent, and at night they were actually friendly. That's the Kshatriya rules. Not exactly friendly, but they could mix a little bit. So Arjuna goes to Duryodhana's tent and says, I want a blessing or a boon. And Duryodhana says, just ask for anything. I'll even give you the kingdom back. And of course he knows Arjuna is not going to ask for the kingdom because that was against Kshatriya principles. So, anyway. So Arjuna asked for these arrows. And so Duryodhana has to give him the arrows. And then Duryodhana goes to grandfather Bhisma and says, can you make 5 more arrows? Bhisma says, I can't because I just imbued the arrows with all my potency. But I have to make a deal with you. I'm going to kill Arjuna the next day anyway, and the only way Arjuna is going to be saved is if Krishna breaks his promise. So everyone was happy, or not everybody. And so the next day, Bhisma fights so ferociously that Arjuna is in danger. And when Arjuna is in danger, Krishna picks up the chariot wheel, rushes at grandfather Bhisma, and basically Arjuna has to jump off the chariot, grab Krishna's feet, hold him back, and say, don't do this. Don't do this. Because it's embarrassing for a Kshatriya to be defended by his chariot driver. Actually, twice Krishna rushed at grandfather Bhisma. There was another time, too, during the Mahabharata war, when Arjuna was not fighting so seriously against grandfather Bhisma. And Krishna said, if you're not going to fight seriously, I'm going to fight seriously, and I'm going to kill him. And then Arjuna also had to hold him back at that particular juncture. Okay, so fast forward to when Bhisma didn't leave his body, it was on the bed of arrows. Arjuna uses the Shikandi, who was still a male, but he was previously a female, and Grandfather Bhisma had taken a vow never to fight or hurt a female or anyone who was previously a female. So, there was some understanding about gender changing, as they say, gender bending or gender changing. It wasn't unknown at that particular juncture. Interesting. So, we're so proud in our modern society. We have all these new things. Not new. Nothing new under the sun. Believe me, nothing new under the sun. So anyway, there's fighting, and Arjuna, he doesn't really want to fire his arrows at Grandfather Bhisma, but Krishna says, do it. So he's using Shikandi as a human shield, and he's firing the arrows and Grandfather Bhisma, he's so ferocious that even though he's like half filled with arrows at this particular point, he keeps rushing. This is a Kshatriya nature. And during the Battle of Kurukshetra, many of the Kshatriyas, including Arjuna and the others, got arrows in their body. And instead of, ow, pain, going to the doctor, they just plucked them out. There's sometimes 3 or 4 arrows in the body, and they would just go, well, all right, get rid of these arrows. Boom, boom. I mean, that's not an easy thing. An arrow usually has a point on it, so it actually rips the flesh when you take it out. So it's not, there was blood all over the place. Of course, fortunately, Nakul and Sadev were actually quite adept at fixing all the wounds. Why were they quite adept? Because they were the sons of the Ashvini Kumaras. The Ashvini Kumaras are the Heavenly Society doctors, surgeons, doctors, and they were not only specialists, they were general practitioners too. So they knew everything, herbology, fixing bones, everything they could do. It's really interesting how powerful they were in the medical science. So anyway, Bhisma keeps rushing to Arjuna, ferocious, and Krishna, and Arjuna's just like, what's happening? He keeps firing the arrows. Finally, there's so many that are covering Grandfather Bhisma's body. In the Mahabharata, it's described that you couldn't even put a finger between the arrows. Not even a finger between the arrows. There were so many arrows. Of course, he didn't shoot at Bhisma's head, but the rest of the body. And so Bhisma falls over backwards on this bed of arrows. And then what happens is that Bhisma wants a pillow to rest his head on. And the Kurus, that's Duryodhana, at this point the battle is, the fighting had stopped just to honor Grandfather Bhisma. Duryodhana rushes to get a cushion, but Arjuna knows what Grandfather Bhisma wants, which is a pillow that's fit for a Kshatriya. So he fires his arrows and he makes like a pillow out of the arrows, like crisscross on the ground. And then Bhisma says, I'm thirsty. Obviously, you'd be thirsty after you're filled with arrows and blood all over the place. And so Arjuna fires the arrow with the ground, and water, the Ganges water, comes out of the ground, it spurts from the ground. And sometime later, Ganga Devi actually appeared too, and quenches the thirst of Grandfather Bhisma. So Bhisma is lying there in the battlefield, and he doesn't want to leave this world. Why? Because first of all, he wants to make sure that the Hastinapur and the whole kingdom, which is the whole earth at that particular point, is in the hands of Yudhisthira. So he's not going to leave until he makes sure. He's taken a vow to protect the kingdom. That's one thing. Another thing is he wants to leave at an auspicious time, when the sun starts to go to the north. So that's either the winter solstice, when the sun starts to go to the north, or when the sun crosses the equator going north, which is the spring equinox for the northern hemisphere. That's the northern hemisphere, not the southern hemisphere. It's either one of the two times. So he wants to wait, okay, at least until after that happens. So he is able to be there. They have guards all around him, and he's there for the whole period of the Battle of Kurukshetra. And of course, the Pandavas ultimately win. basically breaking the thighs of Duryodhana, and basically almost everybody's dead, including the sons of the Pandavas. And, almost everybody dies in the battlefield. It's a big massacre. And of course, that was Krishna's plan, to rid the earth of demoniac forces, the demons who had taken birth on the earth in Kshatriya families. Okay, so Bhisma was lying there, and then after the battle of Kurukshetra, they approach grandfather Bhisma, that is the Pandavas, and Krishna's also there. And Bhisma is able to give so many instructions. This is in the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata. He's able to give so many instructions about Dharma, so many instructions about just ordinary dealings, the duties of a king, so many instructions. And then when it comes time to leaving the body, he remembers his chivalrous, this is from the Bhagavatam, he remembers his chivalrous interactions with Krishna. When Krishna was rushing at him with the chariot wheel, he was firing arrows at Krishna, and these arrows apparently hit Krishna, and there was something apparently like blood. It wasn't blood, because Krishna doesn't have blood in his body. But Krishna experienced those arrows of grandfather Bhisma as like lover's bites. It's an interesting description that Prabhupada gives in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So grandfather Bhisma experienced so it was like a chivalrous exchange. And Bhisma wants to remember that. Krishna comes in front of him. And then with Krishna in front of him, Bhisma remembering these pastimes and seeing Krishna, he leaves this world and goes back to be a Vasu, but a pure devotee. And some people say he goes back to home, back to Godhead. So grandfather Bhisma is one of the 12 Mahajanas, the Dwadasha is 12, Mahajanas who set an example for the rest of society. And of course, grandfather Bhisma's example in these particular pastimes was not always the best, but it was a pastime. But he's one of the 12 authorities on Dharma. Very, very important authority on Dharma. How to execute Dharma, because you need authorities on Dharma, not just the Vedic literatures. You need Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So he's worshipped to this day as an authority on Dharma. And if you're interested in about hearing some of his practical instructions, you could read the Shanti Parv of the Mahabharata that deals with his instructions. So that's grandfather Bhisma, the story of grand. Today is Bhishmashtami. So I think that's it for the story, and we can take questions if any of you have questions. But first, I have to unmute you all. Give me 1 second. Whoops. No, there we go. Okay, you can type in the text window, or you can raise your little hand, or you can unmute yourself. So who has a question about, today was about grandfather Bhisma. Tomorrow is also another important day, and the day after is an important day. Tomorrow we're going to be speaking during the Sunday program, which will be broadcast the same time, same station, about Shripad Madhvacharya. And we are members of Shripad Madhvacharya's disciplic succession. We're in the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And the next day after that is the appearance day. Well, actually, it's the disappearance day. I'm sorry, Madhvacharya on Sunday. Gotta get my glasses. And the next day, which is Monday here, is the disappearance day of Shripad Ramanuja, or Ramanujacharya. So those are important personalities. Of course, they're both the modern heads of their respective sampradayas, the Brahma Sampradaya and the Sri Sampradaya. So we need to speak about those two personalities on Sunday and Monday here, or for those of you in the South Pacific, that means Monday and Tuesday. So that's pretty cool. So on that note, a happy note, who has a question? Questions, comments, arguments, problems, complaints? Oh, here. Here's one. Okay. Here's a question. Guru Dev. Hold on a second. Let me read the whole question. Uh, Sri Advaita Acharya brought Lord Chaitanya and his final message through Jagadananda Pandit. He said to finish the pastime, is there enough rice in the market? Oh, I think you asked this before, but I didn't get a chance to answer. What I understood from you in the past is love of Godhead. On the other hand, he left this world feeling the pain that people were not respecting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How do I understand this as it appears contradictory? Love God is for Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please explain. So what he said is that there's enough rice in the marketplace. That means there's enough love of God there, but people aren't accepting it. There's a lot of people not accepting it. He didn't say everybody has eaten the rice and everybody's a full belly. There's a difference. He said there's enough rice in the marketplace, but people are disrespecting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, Lord Chaitanya, you've done your service, and those who could take up Krishna consciousness have taken it up. But at the same time, there were people disrespecting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There could be enough rice, but people are not buying. And that's what was bothering Advaita Acharya. I hope that explains that to you. Okay, and
Thank you, Gurudev.
okay, and then who's the next one? I saw that there was someone else who had, I think Rakesh had a question.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Yes.
So my question is, I'm still finishing up Ishopanishad. So one of the mantras.
Where's your tilak?
I just woke up.
You just woke up? What time is it there?
I worked till midnight last night, so I slept at 2 o'clock.
Oh, all right. That's all right. Oh, you just woke up. Okay, you're excused. Okay, so what's the question?
Hiranmayan patren satyasya apihitam mukam. So Lord covers himself with his dazzling rays of effulgence. It is river.
So Upanishad, right?
Yes. So I'm just coming to the question. I'm just reading the purport. When there is a realization of the material potencies of the Lord with little or no information of spiritual potency, it is called Paramatman realizations. Therefore, both Brahman and Paramatman realizations of the absolute truth are partial realization.
That's right.
Why Brahman and Paramatman realizations are called material potency of the Lord or material realization only?
Why? Because there's still self-centeredness. Prabhupada here is defining material not as earth, water, fire, air, ether, intelligence, mind, intelligence, and false ego, but Prabhupada is defining material as I have often defined material, which is basically something not directed to Krishna, but just directed for one's own satisfaction. Both in Brahman realization and in Paramatma realization, it's about me, not me, you. So anyway, it's about not about me, obviously. I don't want Paramatma or Brahman realization. So, but with Bhagawan realization, it's about Bhagawan. Brahman means I want to get liberated. Paramatma means basically, usually with the yogi, I want some power. Bhukti, mukti, siddhi, calm, sakalaya, shanta. Krishna bhakti, bhakta nishkam, mata eva shanta. Okay. You understand that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's what Prabhupada is using the word material in a different way, or in the way that I usually use it. Material means not to use it, not to do something for Krishna, something for one's own satisfaction. Okay? Just like, yeah, I think you get the idea.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so, it's almost time. We'll give you one last chance, if a person wants to ask a question. Otherwise, it is time. It is on the hour. The clock struck 12. Not 12, it's 6. Okay, yeah, from now on, okay. Now on, don't just wake up and attend class. That's the invention of the internet. You can attend class in your pajamas, but if you're going to do that, better not to use the video.
Sorry, go there. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do that, don't use the video at all. It's better. It's better we just hear your voice rather than the video if you're going to attend class in your pajamas. Yeah, it's a really bad idea. So, all right. On that happy note, anyway, forgive me for making these jokes. Life is too short not to be happy. Okay, so we'll see everybody later. All glory is to His divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila